Record with Michael Landsberg is brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends, see you tonight.
We have been promoting the show for a while, and you have let us know through your emails and your faxes and your phone calls all week long. This is a show that you need to see, largely because this woman sits here. What a wonderful talent she is. What a breath of fresh air into the WWF top rope she works from. One of their big superstars right now. Great to welcome a very smart woman and a lovely woman as well. Lita, nice to see you on the show.
Thanks, Michael.
We're happy to see this guy. A very familiar face, and just make one sound.
One sound?
There you go.
There
a familiar voice as well from all kinds of cartoons. Dwayne Hill on OTR. Nice to see you, Dwayne. Dave Kaufman, don't make a sound. You'll have your chance later on. Okay. CPGA golfer, and now the executive director of the Magna Golf Club. How do you spell free membership? Dave Kaufman, nice to see you, man. See you. And Nelson Millman just happens to be one of the most successful program directors across the country. He programs the very successful Fan 590. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Today, the NBA loves Vince. When people talk about Vince, usually Bobby is a player hater. Well, at least one player I can think of. And Mark hated his secret life. Can there be any way to open the sport world's closet door? But first, the Leafs tied Columbus last night at home. Since mid-December, they have now won just 9 of 28 games. Now, I ask you, given the fact that they have lost or tied to Calgary, Nashville, Boston twice, the dreaded Atlanta Thrashers, and now Tampa Bay, they could win the Cup, of course, but they could also fail to make the playoffs. The season has been a roller coaster of ups and downs. Tonight, Leafs and Flyers on TSN. It could be the closest that Clark and Quinn ever get to each other, and maybe the closest Eric Lindros ever gets to becoming a Leaf. Everybody in the hockey world is waiting for the Maple Leafs to drop a big-time bomb on a big-time deal. Fundamentally, I ask the four of you, is Eric Lindros a possible solution for this team?
Absolutely. I was at the game last night, and I got to tell you, the first period was the most boring hockey I've ever seen in my life. They have some major issues, but we need someone right away, especially because if you want to win the Cup this year, you're not going to do it with the people you have. We need someone like Eric Lindros right away to step in.
But can he stay injury-free? I mean, that's the question. I have a friend who played in the CFL and got 5 concussions, and one thing about concussions is they get progressively worse. And, you know, is he going to bang his head getting out of the car one day and all of a sudden start wetting his pants and not stop?
Yeah, but so he gets injured, so he doesn't finish the season. It's not a risk that we have to take. It's not our money. Right now, we need him, and if he helps us, he helps us, and if he doesn't help us, what are we really giving up?
But you still wind up mortgaging the future, mortgaging your present for an unknown quantity. We talked about this, last time I was on the show. Here's Eric Lindros, could come out and play 30 games, 300 games, 3 shifts.
Yeah, but everyone's been waiting 34 years to win another Cup. Don't you think now is kind of the time to make a move?
And do we really believe that one guy's going to make that much difference? So you give up Berezin, Andropov, pick a player that you're going to have to give up here. Does Eric Lindros make the difference going to the Cup?
And you're saying we're not paying, but let's face it, when Shaq got hired by the Lakers, they doubled the price of the cheapest tickets, right? So all of a sudden you are paying for this guy who could end up getting a concussion in the first game, be gone, and just have a cool jersey to wear for the rest of his life.
I want to save that money for when I go see WWF, frankly.
I think at the end of the day, Bob Clark isn't moving Eric Lindros in a big hurry to anywhere.
Well, because he's looking to increase his leverage, or because he's just being a goof?
Part 2, I like that.
Yeah. I think a little from column A, a little from column B.
Okay, well, I think the question is, and everybody can take this to their world. You can take it to the WWF locker room. It's about leadership. Now, Matt Sundin, the team defends him to the hilt, saying, don't blame Mats. Why are you blaming Mats? But the fact is, this team right now appears to be rudderless. And while we may agree, he's not a yeller, and he's not the kind of guy who's going to scream and shake guys, is this a team that is lacking a big-time leader? And is it fair to blame one individual?
Well, I think you need more. I honestly, I got to tell you, I think he's a great hockey player, but you kind of need more personality. You need a bigger personality. I mean, he's the kind of guy who's sort of a beige paper bag as far as personality goes.
He's
got 9 Volvos in his driveway, and they all match.
Do it on the ice. Nobody cares what you do in the dressing room.
The Leafs have a big-time leader.
Yeah, but don't make a guy a captain then. Well, we do care what you do in the dressing room. You know, if you're not wearing the C, go out there and lead
the ice. Wear the C. If you're not leading on the ice,
just out-yelled me.
Nelson.
And I can out-yell you. You know what?
Listen, the Leafs do have a big-time leader. His name is Ty Domi, and if he wasn't spending quite so much time in the box, he's a great leader. The people love him, the fans love him,
and those 11 goals have
him.
really taken this team a long way.
Oh, and the 19 goals from Sundin have really helped?
You know what? We have potential here for Sundin to get to 30. I don't think there's a lot of potential for Domi to get to 10.
Trade them both for a robot. That's what I say. Japan's been working on one.
But, I mean, a leadership quality it doesn't necessarily mean you're the absolute best player on the team if you just have the qualities of a leader. I mean, you know, like a teacher can be a great teacher of, say, a wrestling school, but they weren't necessarily the biggest star in the wrestling world, but they could still make great stars.
So them's that can do and them's that can't teach.
No, she's totally dissing you because she's saying it is about what you do in the locker room and not necessarily being the best player, right?
Because you have leadership qualities qualities within you, and you already know how to score goals, and you already know how to play hockey being there. Have made it that far. If you just have a leader, somebody to look up as a locker room leader.
First of all, don't diss me again, or I'm coming off the top rope. So I can't even climb up there. Never mind.
I was going to say, getting up there may be a bigger problem than getting down. All right, you guys were talking about Matt Sundin. You mentioned his 19 goals. Mario Lemieux's also got 19 goals. The only difference is Matt Sundin, of course, has played in 58 games, and Mario Lemieux has played in 20 games. 2 more goals last night. No one's denying that Mario is skilled. But listen to what Jacques Lemaire, coach of the Minnesota Wild, said after beating the Penguins on the weekend and hearing complaints about his team's style. Quote, "If we're not allowed to hit and not allowed to check, I'm coming back too. I'm going to play in this league if nobody touches me." Lemaire's taking a shot at a sacred cow. But listen to what he's saying. We all love Lemieux. But doesn't he have a point? To play professional hockey, you have to accept and perhaps expect serious injuries.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. I mean, there are guys that are targets and they get hit. But I mean, that's the whole. I mean, that goes back to the Gretzky thing, right? Would Gretzky been as great as he was if he had been pummeled constantly? I mean, Lemieux is pampered, but and that's why they have protectors. I mean, that's why they have enforcers. They have guys that you know.
The truth is, the reason they should get rid of a lot of the clutching and grabbing isn't to protect him from injury. It's to get the game back to where it used to be. Okay. One of the things we don't have anymore, and let's talk about hard hitting, we don't have open ice body checks anymore because no one's in the open ice anymore. If they open it up, let the scorers score, let the hitters hit, and then we get a little bit of action both ways.
I think a lot of it is defined by how you're supposed to lead. And a guy like Mario Lemieux leads by, I would agree, Lemieux leads by what he does on the ice. But a guy like Eric Lindros has got to be a tough guy. And I'm wondering, I want to ask you, Lita, specifically about the WWF. A guy like Lindros never backed away from a challenge. Right. He kept playing when he had a concussion to the point when he was really sick. Mm-hmm. Do you understand that mentality of going out there and putting on a show no matter what the stakes? And can you say no?
They always, they say, you have the option, and they always say, are you comfortable with this? But at the same time, and at the same time, just having all of us involved in sports of any kind, being athletic, you have that competitive nature, and if you can physically walk, you're going to get yourself down to the ring.
So do you wrestle a lot more hurt than you ever dreamed you would be?
Yes, and you cover that up a lot more, even to your closest friends. Oh no, I feel great, because you're even convincing yourself. No, it doesn't hurt when I go out there.
What's the worst injury you've wrestled with? The most pain that you've been in?
I wrestled a few days right after I got my shoulder and collarbone dislocated, and I had just got put on to the house shows, which was an honor for me to be kind of included on the full part of the roster. And they had just put that on, and the next night I got hurt, and I said, oh, it's just a little tight, it'll be fine. And I got someone to pop it back in there and just kind of waited for those couple days, and I was so excited to be on those house shows. I didn't care. I didn't care that it hurt.
I strained my back bending over. I still have to sit at my desk.
And you still want a program, don't you?
Exactly.
See?
I know exactly how you feel.
All right. Let's go to break, because we'll talk about popping your shoulder out in the XFL and a guy who didn't get a pop back in time.
Absolutely.
Everybody thinks there's a big... Dick Versace has been fined $10,000 by the NBA, and this sounds very high school for being a wise guy and really talking out of turn. Now, I'm the first one to jump all over Dick Versace. I think he was way out of line for saying that the Grizzlies had done all they could to keep the team in Vancouver, and more importantly, for saying that the Raptors will be in the same position within a year. But isn't it his God-given right to say stupid things if he wants to?
Not in the NBA. David Stern doesn't let anybody say stupid things in the NBA. The NBA rules that league with an iron fist, and it's their way or the highway. There are other organizations.
I don't think they are. I think the only reason that they even it's even an issue is because I think the truth hurts. I think it's close to home. I don't know. No, I think there's negotiations, there's stuff going on.
You have obligations being in the public and having the gift of the media to come to you, and you can't just go run off at your mouth and bury whoever you want to. And you have the right to say whatever you want in your own personal time. You're working when you're in front of the media. On your own personal time to your friends and family, I believe. You can't just go out and bury a company that's paying you millions of dollars a year to go represent their company and go play for their team, and then you can just have people there and then just...
Yeah, trash talking. Our team sucked. We're 93 and 356. People haven't come out to support. That's what he should be talking about, not whether or not the Toronto Raptors are going to re-sign.
Also, the NBA as a total thing is a big brand, right? It's not just one team or the other team. Just like WWF is a brand. It's not about one wrestler or another. And when one person puts the entire brand in jeopardy, then they have to be able to...
But one segment of the brand, that's just trash talking. That is just trash talk, and that's what gets you pressed. That's why we're talking about on a show on a show today. We're talking about the Grizzlies. We would not have been talking about the Grizzlies if he hadn't said anything.
Right.
We'd be lamenting them. You know, it's like the Grizzlies. You know, who has Grizzly pillowcases, really?
I mean, I agree. It just, you know, you can say stuff controversial like that, almost planting something. You say, well, they're going to talk negative about it, and they're going to trash it.
Well, you guys call that
you know
real
what?
heat, right?
Exactly. I mean, I said to Vince, oh, I saw some press on the XFL. And he said, was it good or bad? It doesn't matter. You know, I mean, as long as they're talking. If they're not talking, then it matters.
Speaking of the XFL and speaking of gag orders, the NFL has put out an alert to all of its teams. They are not allowed to talk about the XFL publicly, not even to respond to challenges from players, from teams, from the league, or even from Vince. Is that the right move and a fair move?
That's stupid. I'm sorry. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away. Ignoring competition doesn't change the fact that competition is
Exactly. That's what I think. I think it shows a trace amount of fear on the NFL's part. No, the NFL doesn't have anything to worry about, and it's going to go on for 1,000 years. But I think they're saying, I think part of them is saying, wait a minute, this is actually hitting a segment.
The reason that they're doing that, it's clear to me. What happened to the USFL, kind of bought by the NFL. What happened to the AFL, bought by the NFL. Every league that comes up, it ends up being partly owned. The CFL by the NFL. They're just getting ready because they're going to, if they don't buy the actual league, they're going to buy some of the proprietary intellectual property they have with the cool.
How come you didn't talk like this when you weren't the head of a golf course? The proprietary intellectual property. What the hell is that?
Let me tell you this. Let me say, I like
you have a tie under there?
I like the angles they have. They're going to buy the way where they put the cameras, how they do the filming, and then they don't want them to come back and say, you guys said it sucked way back
when. So
when.
the NFL's running scared.
So let me ask you this. Tony Saragusa, big defensive lineman for the Ravens, helped them win the Super Bowl. Entertaining guy, shows up at the sidelines in the opening game in Las Vegas. He's interviewed on camera, seems to be having a great time. Got a problem with that?
Well, you got a Super Bowl.
You don't have a problem with that, Nelson? Oh, come on.
If I owned the NFL, I would have a problem
Absolutely.
with that.
Okay, so the league begins in February and goes through 13 weeks. It's outside the NFL season. Where's the issue? The players could conceivably play in both leagues if the XFL had the players that
so you would have no problem if there was another all-sports radio station in the city of Toronto. If one of your guys went over there and just dropped it in the morning show. Well, look who's here. It's Pat Marsden.
I don't think
he's got a great
comparison because we're in business at the same time. We're after the same corporate and advertising dollars. I don't think that's applicable with the NFL season versus the XFL season.
It's like Michael Jordan dropping by a playground, frankly. It's not going to really, it's not comparing.
It doesn't add legitimacy to the league. The football will be what adds legitimacy to the league.
That's what the NFL is trying to almost make you believe. It's like him stopping at a playground. Oh, they're saying, oh, this is a non-issue. The XFL is a non-issue. Is it? I mean, just see the ratings for the first game that was out.
How nail-biting is the Super Bowl? I mean, really?
Oh, this was not a great game. No. Last year's game was pretty good.
Well, yeah, but this game was like technically a tranquilizer. I mean, you could prescribe it to people. I mean, it was one of those things where they finished off their season with a yawn. I mean, a 3-hour yawn where people, they didn't get an offensive touchdown.
One of the things that they say is access, right? Vince has said, let's take the cameras, let's put them in the dressing room, put them in the locker rooms, let's put them everywhere. Could that work in the WWF? In the locker room, not for the stuff that has been scripted, but for the unscripted stuff where real heat exists between competitors.
Right. I would think that could really only be done the same as from what I've seen from the XFL. Those in the locker rooms look a little pre-taped to me, anyways. Whether they are or not, I personally don't know. I have never been there, but I would think that they could do that more in like a pay-per-view type special. You know, where the cameras follow us around, say, for a month, 6 weeks, get the best of, out of however many hours of footage and clip it down, just because it's kind of boring. So we get there at the buildings at noon and we're there till midnight, and for them just to kind of have the cameras, like those 24-hour web access.
Do you use the same locker rooms as everybody else?
Yeah, we just hang out and dress together.
Wow. When we return, Mark Shimura is being called on the carpet for being caught in the hot tub. Bad place to be, definitely. Illegal? Not according to the courts. What's the NFL's role in all of this? We'll ask when we return. NFL free agent signing period begins on March the 2nd. There are about a dozen teams interested in tight end Mark Shimura, but they can't touch him until they get the nod from the commissioner, Paul Tagliabue. The former all-star tight end for the Packers was acquitted on rape charges, but his trial revealed a lifestyle that included copious amounts of sex. The league won't let him sign anywhere until he's met with the commish. First question, is the league right to investigate and perhaps judge his private life?
Yes.
I think, first of all, he should be doing a Molson commercial if he's having too much sex. But
Those tiles really bang up your knees. It was a bathroom, people. It wasn't a romantic endeavor. I mean, this guy was just jumping at the chance. And I think, you know, if they did reveal stuff, you know, maybe they...
I just say, I mean, the commissioner has a right to ask him and investigate him. I just remember being interviewed for my job. They just said, have you been accused of any crimes? And it was up to them. Even if I said yes, I was in jail for 5 years. It was still, they weren't saying I wasn't going to get a job. They just want to kind of get a better handle on the situation. And being a public figure, as much as you don't have any private time, you don't, and you pay the price, but you get paid more, and that's the price you pay for being in the public.
If you've been a cokehead, this wouldn't be an issue.
You're right.
That's true. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like there's so many things that aren't, you know, that used to be taboo that aren't anymore, and it's just kind of they've crossed this barrier with this rape charge. It gets dropped, but.
You know, the thing is, it really does matter what he's doing, what he's not doing. The NFL is not the XFL. I mean, really, that trial is an audition for the XFL, if you look at it that way. But the NFL, I think, no, seriously, now that they see what McMahon is up to and what they're up to, especially with the cheerleaders and the players and the whole thing, they're saying, we're not that. We're real entertainment, but we are a sport. We're not just entertainment. So we got to make sure that we're not going over the edge with these guys that are going crazy when they're not on the football field.
But isn't it a very dangerous precedent to start investigating one guy's private life? Because if you investigate his one life, and he's been guilty of exactly the same number of crimes as most of the league, and that is 0. Don't you set a very dangerous precedent?
But didn't his private life become public life?
Yeah, but can he legitimately go, well, okay.
But he's also a hypocrite. He didn't show up at the White House because of Bill Clinton, and then all of a sudden, you know, so he really put the onus on himself. I mean, let's face it. He wouldn't show up at the White House because he was disgusted by it, but then, of course, he gives a 17-year-old some canned champagne, and the next thing you know, feel like making love.
If you're creating a stir in your private life is not private if you're a public figure. Exactly. You're pretty much working around the clock. If you're in your house with the doors locked, with a 17-year-old, I don't know, but if you're in your house with the doors locked, then maybe that's your private time. If you're a public figure, the public figure if you're at the grocery store. You know?
Plus, we'd be having the same conversation if we said, we're not going to investigate him.
Exactly.
Before he goes.
So, yeah, you should investigate him.
Dave, don't tell us what conversations we'll have. We'll decide.
We'll have those.
Okay. Whoa there.
All right. On that note, we go to break. As we go to break, we say to you, tell us the guests you want. You told us you wanted Lita. No one said they wanted Dave Kaufman, by the way. You told us you wanted Lita, and she's on this show. Let us know not only the guests that you want to see, but also let's talk about the topics. OTR, please stop dissing Anna Kournikova. She's won lots of tournaments. She was the #1 doubles player in the world last year. Yes, she's hot, but she is also a legitimate tennis great. We were talking about her. Yeah. Whoa, we'll leave that. There's our website. Oh, there's our email. There's our fax number. Back with more OTR in a moment. You have been sending your questions all week for Lita. We have picked probably out of a couple of thousand the best ones, and you can see it on our amazing website. It's tsn.ca/OTR. The goods on this woman. Now, I got to ask you, have you been accepted as a wrestler?
The girls, yeah, for the most part. The guys, they've accepted the possibility of me one day being a wrestler, but they've definitely accepted me as wanting to learn to become a full-on wrestler, and they're really, really cool about helping me out and teaching me stuff.
Now, you guys are coming back to Toronto, right?
Yeah, we'll be here on March 17th, and it's at the Air Canada Centre, and it's a house show. So those are actually a lot of fun because we have a little bit more free time to play around with things and have fun with the crowd, and we can interact a little bit more.
Will you do the show before then?
I would love to.
Excellent. You're a great guest. And you can see those kind of answers talking about her profession, WWF, on our website. What's going on with you, Mr. Hill?
Just still doing...
Am I throwing you for a loop here?
Well, I feel like, that's a good question. A better physical answer would be, no, I'm doing the X commercials, had too much sex, and we're doing a tie-in with the WWF, and I'm really excited about that. That's awesome. And, of course, a lot of people ask me if I'm having too much sex, which, of course, if you say yes, then they say right, and if you say no, they go, it shows. So...
You really can't win.
I think they go with the best.
But it was great having you on the show.
Thanks a lot. It was a real pleasure. It was awesome.
Dave Kaufman, tell me about the Magna Golf Course.
Well, this summer we're hosting the Bank of Montreal Canadian Women's Open. We're very excited about that.
When I said tell me, I meant me, not the camera.
I was trying to play out.
Okay. Keep going. Keep going.
Anyway, it's really good, and I'm really excited to announce that Lita decided she's going to compete this year. And
you get to have one exemption, right?
Yeah, one exemption.
And you've just given it to Lita.
Yeah, and I'm going to show up on March 17th at the Air Canada Centre and help her out.
And guys should check you out, right? Because you're accepting memberships to this great golf course.
That's right.
You give me a peek at how it's going to look. It's really spectacular.
It's going to be great.
Good having you on the show, as always. Nelson Millman,
where
do we find your product?
Got the Raptors heading into the playoffs on 590. Lots of great stuff going on. And quick hello to my daughter, Haley, who's been in Sick Kids for a while. Hang in there, kid. Keep fighting.
Quick hello to Haley from me as well. Keep fighting.
And me.
And everybody. I think it probably means
Thank you,
most
guys.
from Lita.
Don't get up.
Absolutely.
All right. Matt Geiger, NBA, Philadelphia 76ers. Let me throw it fast because we only got 40 seconds left. Tested positive for a performance-enhancing drug. Said it's not his fault that it was all of a sudden made illegal and it still remained in the system. But you keep seeing this over and over again. Is there any chance that sport will ever be clean?
No.
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 Not as long as there's
All
money
right, let me
involved.
ask you
As long as
the
there's money
next
involved. Money? What makes you cheat? It's kind of like you cheat on a test for money, right?
And the truth is, no one cares if they cheat. It makes them big, it
Exactly.
makes them strong, it makes them fast. Go ahead. I don't
It's like the all-drug Olympics on
Exactly.
SNL, you know? The guy pulls his arms off and everybody
But yet
applauds.
the people, you know, they have an obligation to, you know, suspend people or do whatever they have to do because it's the law. But no, do they care? No.
No, they don't.
It's enhancing your performance.
Yeah, try that
I think you guys summed it up pretty well. It's like...
Off the Record with Michael Landsberg is brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends, see you tonight. Michael Landsberg's wardrobe supplied by Grafton and Company. Get it at Grafton.
Another tattoo?
Hi, Spriggs, your ladies. And vision me. Oi.
I already get my lucky face.